So there has been quite a severe shakeup between Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company, all because of what's been going on with the Acolyte series as viewership continues to decline, and after episode 6 failed to reverse the backlash as leslye Headland has of course been hoping for. She actually believed that episode 6 would turn things around, and it's not. She's already blaming that reviews are inauthentic, not real, so to speak, and you really can't take reviews seriously anymore. She's already discounting the true critics that have a real problem with the series, all agenda aside, all the agendas put to the wayside. There's a lot of things wrong with this show. The writing, the directing, the acting, just to name a few. But focusing on Amandla Stenberg, who portrays May and Osha in the series, after she was indeed fired and removed from several Star Wars projects under Lucasfilm, we talked about this a couple of days ago, there's been quite a reaction coming from her against the backlash and what's been going on with the Acolyte ratings disaster. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, the Acolyte only has 2 episodes left, alright? Everything is gonna wrap up on July 17th, I believe it is. And there's a lot of things going on with the Acolyte overall. Now, we know that there's only 2 episodes left to really wrap up the story. There's not much left to tell, to be honest. There might be like one little twist here and or there, that's not going to be too shocking, but what's interesting about this has a lot to do with Amandla Stenberg really going at it against the fans again in the midst of her getting fired and removed from multiple Star Wars projects under Lucasfilm, some of which were considered to be Acolyte spin-offs, others of which were set in the High Republic era that were supposed to implant her as the form of a cameo as either Osha or May. Moving on. Now, of course, with the Acolyte Episode 6 failing to reverse the backlash and creating panic at Lucasfilm as viewership sharply declines for Disney+, one major development now has more to do with actress Amandla Stenberg and her reaction after she was fired from multiple projects. Stenberg delivered the following. If you look at the critics, especially for the Acolyte, I think that is all the projection that you can see with what is wrong with society and who is accepted in this industry and who is not. I mean, going into the Acolyte, I was prepped by both leslye and Kathy about the reactions I should expect with a story that not only represents the LGBTQ community, but also the non-binary community. What I find to have a troubling issue with is how, of course, how irresponsible some fans can be when shouting out into a void and handing studios false perception of how a show is performing. I think it's very true that toxic men are just afraid of women at the end of the day, especially in Star Wars because they feel it belongs to them, and belongs to George Lucas strictly, which just is not the case, and not the answer to make something great at all. What leslye predicted what would happen was pretty on point when we were filming that the same toxic male demographic would have issues with women on screen was exactly what we expected, and just how frightened they were of the LGBTQ community becoming a part of Star Wars. Now, leslye really wanted to make this the most diverse cast, with different backgrounds, and the same goes for some of the characters which will unfold in episodes 7 and 8. The majority of fans shouting out into a void are nothing of that. They are a minority, but misogynists as well, that don't make life easier for anyone. Star Wars was never really for men. They were never the majority. I think what George Lucas failed to do was expansion, to reach out to other demographics. Women, those of the LGBTQ community, and those that consider themselves non-binary. Those were all missed opportunities in the last 6 films by George, and I would go as far to say that Disney could have handled that better, even with the other 3 films. For far too long, men have gotten the lead roles in these movies and shows, and it's refreshing to see some creators finally standing up against the loud minority that believes they have some sort of convincing voice. As for Season 2, I have no comment on that at all. I refuse to talk about it. But what I will say is that some conversations I was involved in aren't really moving forward anymore, and I will find the right time to explain. But this is a galaxy far away. There are endless possibilities to represent those that are non-binary or come from an LGBTQ background, and leslye really laid the foundation for that, and it's something that really was supported by both Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy, who absolutely loved what she was aiming for. So guys, before I move on about this, about what Amandla Stenberg is spewing yet again here, is that, number one, she is literally admitting, again, that Dave Filoni loves exactly what Kathleen Kennedy did here, what Leslye Headland did here. I've been pointing this out for well over a year now. Dave Filoni's all for what's been going on with Star Wars. He literally said this on the record, that he loves what Kathleen Kennedy has been doing. It's not about keeping his job. It's not about keeping his promotion as the chief creative officer over at Lucasfilm. It has nothing to do with that. This has been going on, if you really dig deep, for years, alright? And it may have been very well hidden in some interviews that didn't get much traction for Dave Filoni, but he, even back when the sequels were coming out, loved everything that they were doing with the character of Rey, and all of that, of course, nonsense with Rey Skywalker. He loves that. He absolutely supports it through and through, that she is now a actual Skywalker. He even went on to say that she is considered a official Skywalker now, but that's the least of the problems. What's interesting about this has also to do with the fact that you got someone like Leslye Headland that is saying that men are still afraid of women. She keeps going on about that ongoing agenda that they like to present as reality when it's really false. Men are not frightened about women in the film industry. We've been, of course, ones that grew up with many examples in pop culture. Just to name a few, I know this is the, most obvious ones, but you have those like Sarah Connor, Ellen Ripley, Beatrice Kiddo. I mean, that's just to name like 3 there right off the bat. There are so many more, dozens more, that fit so well into the different stories over the past couple of decades. So I don't know what they are even talking about. This is something that Kathy likes to always present, Leslye Headland, and in this case Amandla Stenberg, especially with Star Wars. They always like to say that men are just afraid of women. Now, on top of that, she goes on to conclude, Star Wars is about attracting new fans now over the original fans to rightfully expand the brand to the modern world. So they keep going on about that, expanding the brand to the modern world and the modern way of thinking. So this is something that Leslye Headland talked about, something that Amandla Stenberg talked about. That's why you feel a lot of familiar aspects in the show and see them as well. We have seen various things in here that don't feel right, that feel so out of place, that make the story disjointed. They try to do this, of course, with other franchises out there from different studios, and Disney/Lucasfilm, I mean, they are really the epitome of forcing an agenda onto the public, onto the Star Wars community of fans that obviously just want a good story. They want proper character development above all else. They want art over ideology. Kathleen Kennedy, however, she wants ideology over art. So I would like to hear what everyone has to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.